Somewhat of a lightning rod topic. For some reason, parents choosing to remove their kids from government-run institutions and provide education at home is seen as apocalyptic and a force that needs to be stopped. What could those kids possibly be doing at home? Are religious zealots training the next generation of intolerant domestic terrorists? Are these kids ever going to have social skills? Obviously, these questions and those like them are really offensive. What we know is an overwhelming majority of homeschool students are light years ahead of their traditional school peers. They excel in reading, writing, math, science, and foreign languages. They're regular fixtures in national spelling bees and other competitions. They're also accepted at the highest levels into the nation's top colleges and universities. Institutions like Harvard University. Yet the elite college seems to have a bone to pick with homeschooling parents. In the third published article in less than a month, the Harvard Gazette's most recent assault on this form of school choice is titled, "A Warning on Homeschooling." In it, Elizabeth Barthet, a law school professor and faculty director of the Child Advocacy Program at Harvard Law, spews a lot of nonsense. She argues the following: homeschooling is unregulated and emphasizes conservative Christian values. The homeschooling lobby is more powerful than the gun lobby. Homeschooling can lead to increases in child abuse and neglect. Essentially, homeschooling could end the world as we know it. The issue here is there are so many fault lines in her reasoning that we can't even begin to list them all.
But one day I wondered, why am I doing this? And if you're standing in front of the mirror today, with this coronavirus and looming depression, how did I get here is the question. What don't I know? What did my information, education, cultural background, what did not prepare me for today? That's where the transformation or the metamorphosis begins. You take responsibility. Everybody talks about rights, but we have personal responsibilities too.
So there's not a haven of sorts for students, even in the traditional public school. But we're seeing more and more of these aggressive anti-homeschooling articles and pieces come out now because folks are very afraid that during this time of coronavirus, where a lot of students are at home, there are going to be some parents who decide to homeschool indefinitely or to do it longer beyond the extent of schools being shut down.
Well, and if they see their child excelling, and they have the ability to do it. That's the biggest thing to me is it's like if you're going to raise questions about homeschooling, you make sure that the parents actually have the ability to do it. Not just the mental ability, but also the time of day and the hours needed to really be good homeschooled parent. There's a responsibility there. But if parents want to take on that responsibility and homeschool their kids because for whatever reason they don't like the public school education system, they have every right to do that, but we're also not talking about a large group of the population that actually does this.
Absolutely not. Currently in America, 4% of our school students are homeschooled. And I mean homeschooling, not what we're seeing right now during COVID-19. So I think that there's a very important distinction to make here, because homeschooling typically is a parent or a tutor who that parent has hired or is working with to work with whomever the kids are in their household specifically. This is outside of the public school system in most cases. What we're seeing right now in COVID-19 is distance learning. Distance learning is actually a administrator, a school authorized, district authorized person who is literally posting curriculum online, who also has video for the students, who is passing along coursework, grading that coursework. The parent is there essentially to help them log on, but they're not the person who's actually providing that teaching mechanism.
Right, where homeschooling, it's the parent or a tutor that they've hired to do it.
Unfortunately, our university systems have failed us miserably. And the reason for that is every professor wants tenure. That's my whole family. That was the most important thing about getting a job, was tenure, job security for life. And that's what they teach kids without knowing it. They teach kids that life is dangerous and you need to be protected. So they're immature. College professors are some of the most immature. They might be very smart mentally, but immature financially. They can't take care of themselves. So they're teaching kids to be victims. That's why these trigger mechanisms and you can't say words that are hurtful and all this stuff. So they're teaching that you're a victim, you're vulnerable. And what you teach and what I teach is that, hey, don't be a victim, be proactive.
To me, I mean, there's some criticisms that I could make of like, hey, you know, and I'm sure that they've figured out ways to kind of keep this, but the biggest thing to me is like, hey, it's social skills, right? Being in public school, being around all those kids, it forces you to deal with a lot of social situations that you're going to need later on in life, and valuable learning lessons. That to me would be the biggest criticism I could think of for homeschooling. I mean, beyond like, okay, like, yeah, if you have bad, dumb parents, well, then you're going to get a bad student, but that's the same to
That's
be
the same thing if you had a bad
teacher, you're going to get a bad student. So, I mean, it's, you know, that kind of crosses each other out.
So I come at it from both sides because I've worked in the education sector. I was also homeschooled K to 8 and then went to a regular traditional public high school. So what I can say about the social skills is that right now homeschooling is very different than it's been, you know, historically. There are different clubs, different activities. You can be involved in sports leagues. Most homeschool students aren't just what people think of a kid sitting in a basement or something just with their parents for hours on end and never seeing the light of day.
Yeah.
No, they're actively involved in a lot of sports. They're actively involved in a lot of community organizations, and they're doing other things as well. So I think that argument kind of falls on its face
Okay.
too. The most interesting one to me, though, is the one that involves around racism, because again, these arguments are led by liberal elites. So the idea is that a lot of the folks who are pulling their kids out of traditional public schools are doing it to fight a notion of a lot of, you know, more liberal teachings or understandings. So they think that they are evangelical right-wing folks who are now, you know, indoctrinating their young people into those ideologies as well as racism.
Right.
I'm here to tell you that as somebody who also went to public school, there are a lot of racist kids who have never been in homeschooled in their lives.
Good point to bring.
No, but you're right. I mean, this could be the greatest wake-up call for most of the citizens around the world. And look, from what we see with the numbers, you know, most people are going to survive through this. But let's be honest, it also could have been worse. So the question is, are you going to start making choices today about your health, you know, about your obesity, about your smoking, about your habits? Are you going to start making choices today about your financial education? And are you going to take ownership for where you're at right now? Unfortunately, everything you hear coming out of the media is preaching it's not your fault and the government's going to take care of you, and that's just going to set you up to be a slave, and then the next crisis is going to hit and the next crisis is going to hit.